It was almost midnight. The city lights blurred behind me as I stepped off the bus, the chill of the late autumn air biting at my exposed skin. I was coming back from a long day, a draining meeting that had stretched far past dinner. All I wanted was the warmth of my friend's apartment, a hot cup of tea, and a moment of peace. I entered an old apartment block, a building I'd visited countless times before. It was one of those places that felt steeped in history, with worn marble in the lobby and a faint, musty scent that clung to the air. My friend lived on the 7th floor. Instead of taking the stairs, my eyes fell upon this ancient 1970s elevator. It was a relic, a metal box with a scratched, dark wood panel interior, the kind that creaks and groans like a grandpa getting up from his favorite armchair, protesting every movement. I usually avoided it, preferring the exercise, but tonight, exhaustion won. I stepped inside, the heavy door sliding shut with a soft, metallic sigh. I pressed the button for the 7th floor, the old plastic giving way with a satisfying click. Then, nothing. The elevator remained still, a silent, unmoving tomb. I thought perhaps I hadn't pressed hard enough. I pressed it again, firmer this time. Instead of going up, the dim light inside flickered once, twice, then settled. A low hum began, and the elevator started moving. But it wasn't ascending, it was going down. A cold knot formed in my stomach. I thought maybe I pressed the wrong button. My finger must have slipped. But then I realized something that made my blood run cold. This building, it doesn't have a basement. There was no floor below the ground level. The descent felt endless, far longer than it should have been. The hum grew louder, a low, guttural growl that vibrated through the floor. Then, with a soft jolt, the elevator stopped. The doors, they slid open. In front of me was a hallway I had never seen before. It was utterly alien, a place that defied the building's familiar layout. The air was heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and something else, something metallic and old. The wallpaper was dark, a faded floral pattern that peeled in places, revealing the crumbling plaster beneath. The silence was absolute, a suffocating void that swallowed any sound. There were no apartment doors lining this corridor, no numbers, no signs of life. Just one door, at the very end. It stood out, stark and ominous. It was black, a deep, matte black that seemed to absorb the faint light from the elevator. It had a single ornate bronze handle, glinting dully in the gloom. A normal person, a sensible person, would have pressed close the moment those doors opened. They would have hammered the button, desperate to escape this impossible place. But not me. Curiosity, or perhaps a morbid fascination, pulled me forward. I walked slowly, the only sound the soft scuff of my shoes on the grimy floor. Each step felt heavy, as if the air itself resisted my movement. The silence pressed in, amplifying the frantic beat of my own heart. I reached the black door. The moment my hand, trembling slightly, touched the cold bronze handle, I heard a whisper. It was faint, barely audible, yet it seemed to echo from deep within the wood. It was a voice, dry and ancient, that seemed to come from the other side. "You're late." I pushed the door open. It swung inward silently, revealing a space that defied logic. Inside was a room, full of old mirrors. They lined every wall, from floor to ceiling, reflecting the dim light and creating an infinite, dizzying expanse. In every mirror, I saw myself, but something was terribly wrong. My reflections were moving, 1 second before I did. They twitched, they shifted, their eyes darted, all before my own body had even registered the thought. It was as if they knew exactly what I was going to do. They were anticipating my every move, a horrifying chorus of premonitions. One of them, the one directly in front of me, in the largest mirror, slowly, unnervingly smiled. I did not. My face remained frozen in a mask of terror. That reflection, the one with the chilling smile, stepped closer to the glass. Its eyes, my eyes, held a knowing, ancient malice. It leaned in, its lips barely moving, and whispered, a dark, slow hiss that seemed to vibrate through the very air. Your floor doesn't exist anymore. Panic, raw and primal, seized me. The words echoed in my mind, a death knell for my reality. I spun around, my heart hammering against my ribs, and ran back to the elevator. I had to get out. I had to escape this impossible place. The doors, they were closed. I slammed my palm against the call button, desperate. Nothing. I pressed it again, harder, my finger aching. This time, with a soft mechanical groan, the doors opened. But there was no cabin inside, only a black, endless shaft going down, a gaping maw of absolute darkness stretching into an abyss. The air that rushed out was cold, dead, carrying the scent of decay. And then, from the impenetrable darkness below, I heard the same whisper. It was closer now, right beside my ear. A dry, rasping breath that sent shivers down my spine. You're late. Everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was in the elevator again. The familiar dim light, the worn wood panels. The digital display above the door glowed, showing the number 7, 7th floor. The doors opened with a soft chime. My friend stood there, leaning against the doorframe, a look of mild annoyance on his face. He looked at me, then at his watch. Man, what's wrong with you? I've been waiting for 20 minutes. I just stared at him, my mouth dry, the taste of fear still lingering. 20 minutes? It felt like an eternity. I stepped out, the familiar hallway a stark contrast to the one I had just left. The air was normal, the silence just the usual quiet of an apartment building. But the memory, it lingers. The black door, the mirrors, the whispers, and the chilling thought that somewhere in the depths of that old building, a floor exists that shouldn't. A floor where my reflection knows more about me than I do.